Which came first, the McChicken or the Egg McMuffin? Hey there, kiddos, and welcome back to the channel. I'm Uncle Frank, and that you are having a great day. And in today's video, we are back in the comfortable chair for the first of what I hope is many videos titled Frank's 5 Favorites, where I go over a random category, be it video games, comics, TV shows, whatever, and talk about my 5 favorite entries in that particular category. And in today's video, I figured we would start with something simple, something easy to talk about, and that is PlayStation 1. One of the classic video game consoles from my childhood, and honestly, a category that surprisingly had a lot of competition. There's a lot of standout, hyper-memorable games for the PlayStation 1, both when I was a kid, first being exposed to the console, and nowadays as an adult, where I'm getting a bit of free time to go back and play some retro video games. So it was challenging to narrow this down to only 5 entries, but we did get there in the end. So I'm going to hopefully go over some really solid games, I think. And with any luck, this will help you guys, the audience, get a better understanding of what I like and hopefully why I like it. So with all of that said and done, let's get the big one out of the way. Number 5 is Crash Bandicoot. And this is the big one because obviously if you had asked me this, what were your 5 favorite PlayStation 1 games as a kid, this would be the winner. When I was a kid, I was absolutely hooked into this game for the longest time. I wasted hours and hours on this, believe it or not. I don't like all the levels. I'm especially not a fan of the wall levels, just because it always, even when I was a kid and even now, the side-scrolling platforming wall levels always felt way harder than the rest. I don't know what it was. I couldn't elucidate it, but Crash Bandicoot is a fun game with a silly, simple, and easy to understand concept. You're just a bandicoot trying to save your bandicoot girlfriend from a crazy evil scientist. There's a bunch of levels in the way with a bunch of really easy bosses, all things considered. I'm sure I'm not the only one who has this opinion, but all of the bosses of this game are way easier than the levels in between the bosses. That's pretty fun, but while I do still have a lot of nostalgic love for this game, and I do still pick it up and play a few levels from time to time, it's no longer my top PlayStation 1 game, but it is still pretty high up there, although it did have some stiff competition. Speaking of, up next we have the obligatory Final Fantasy game for the PlayStation, and much like how narrowing this list down to only 5 entries was quite difficult, narrowing down which of the Final Fantasy PlayStation 1 titles I liked the most was quite hard. 7 is always a classic contender for one of the best video games of all time in many people's opinions, but for me, I've always liked 8 and 9 a bit more for the PS1 console, and which one of them wins out in the end kind of comes down to which of the side mechanics I like a bit more. And for Final Fantasy VIII with the Triad minigame, which is a lot of fun once you understand what you're doing, and I just kind of need to have a card game within a video game, honestly. But it's a lot of fun. It really helps you become really overpowered early on if you know what you're doing. And beyond that, I do think I like most of the characters from 8 just a bit more than the characters from 9. Obviously, Vivi from 9 is going to be my favorite overall, period, of any Final Fantasy. But there's also some characters in 9 that I'm just not super fond of. But with all of that said, this is a long game. Like 40-something plus hours, like all Final Fantasy games at the time. But it's quite good. I'm a huge fan of it. In our third spot, we have the only game on this list that I don't have the original CD jewel case for, and that's Air Guys, which is a fighting game. A really fun fighting game by Squaresoft. That it's a 3D simple fighting game. It's best known, I think, by most people for being the fighting game that has Tifa, Cloud, and Sephiroth in it. So it's really good if you're a fan of Final Fantasy VII. You're probably going to be a fan of this game just because it lets you duke it out as your favorite Final Fantasy characters, which is really cool. And that alone, I think, makes this worth checking out. But there's a secret to Air Guys that I think a lot of people either aren't aware of or overlook. And that's the fact that there's an entire RPG in this game. I'm not joking. Air Guys is a fighting game with a role-playing game inside of it. There's an entire 3D map that you can explore, adventure around, go to shops, go to towns, explore dungeons, fight monsters. It's crazy. There's an entire actual, honest-to-God, role-playing game in a fighting game. And that's the kind of thing you don't see these days. Yeah, I know Smash Brothers has a, like, cinematic, what's the word? Like, campaign that you can play through in the, like, Smash Brothers for the Wii and Smash Brothers for the Nintendo Switch, Smash Ultimate, I think it's called. But those are just fighting game extensions. Those are story modes for a fighting game in all intents and purposes. This is an actual RPG, an honest-to-God role-playing game inside of a fighting game, which is crazy to me. That's always blown me away, and I've always been, like, super excited just to play this. Number 2, we have another blast from the past from my childhood. And this was a game that when I was a kid, I didn't know it as a PlayStation game. It was a game I knew as an arcade game because Area 51 is an absolutely amazing arcade game. And while the home version on the PlayStation is obviously inferior, in my opinion, to the original arcade, it's still really freaking good. This is a on-the-rails first-person shooter where you, dear soldier, are tasked with clearing Area 51 of the invading alien menace. It's got these really cool Mortal Kombat-esque graphics where it's like faux live-action CGI. I think they do use real actors and such and costumes for the aliens. But it all looks really splendid, even on classic CRT TVs. And while the home version is a bit harder to control because it's not using the laser gun, it's using just the arrows on the directional keys on a controller. What the hell is it called? D-pad. D-pad. I don't know why the word for D-pad passed over my brain just there. It's using a D-pad rather than a light gun to make your shots. But it still plays really smoothly and is really enjoyable. Apparently this game is also mouse compatible, but until I got this game, I wasn't aware that there was a PlayStation 1 mouse. That kind of took me by surprise. I don't have one, so I haven't tried it with that, but just playing it with the regular controller is really fun. Lots of fun, in fact. And I would go as far as to say that of the shooting games, of the gun games on the PlayStation 1, think of like Medal of Honor, I think, was one of them. This one stands out a lot and is super memorable. You can easily play this for 8 hours, I think, and not get bored. Quite fun game. Super blast from the past. But all of these lose out, I think, to preface the winner here, the number 1 Frank's PlayStation 1 games. This, in my opinion, is so much better than the rest of these that it's in its own category, just above them. So just keep that in mind as I go to talk about Ghost in the Shell for the PlayStation 1. This is, in my opinion, the best PlayStation 1 game. And it's not even close. In terms of design elements, music soundtrack, difficulty, all of that jazz, this just takes the cake. Ghost of the Shell, the video game for the PlayStation 1, is a tie-in game, not to the anime series, not to the movie, but to the manga. The character design and the way that Kusanagi Motoko acts in this game is closer, in my opinion, to the manga versions of the characters than the anime or movie ever get. It is, in fact, in my opinion, the closest to the manga. But beyond that, this is just a really fun tank control game. You are driving a Fuchikoma through 12 levels. Some of those are boss fights. Some of those are scaling buildings at night. Some of them are just looking through a crowded city trying to find keys to progress to the next area. There's a lot of stuff going on in this game, but it's all separated by various missions that are quite challenging, in my opinion. And I gotta say, this is a really hard game, a fair game. But going through each of the levels, you have one life, you have one health bar. Sure, there's life power-ups, but once you're dead, you're dead. You got to start from the beginning. Not the beginning of the game. You do get to start from the start of the mission. But man, is it a lot of fun. Just blitzing and gliding through the areas. The game controls really well. And I mean that in the most earnest way, I think, of the PlayStation 1 games. The Fuchikoma you control, it's really smooth. You can rocket forward, slide to the side, jump on and climb buildings and vertical surfaces, even upside down, really well, really efficiently. And yeah, there are some difficult platforming sections of the game that do make me fear for my own mortality every time I have to play through them. But it is a lot of fun, with animated cutscenes, with really nice voice acting, an entirely optional challenge mode where you try to, I think it's called a testing mode, where you have to try and get the best time and the best score to get the best ending cutscenes available for the optional mode. And some really, like I said, really tough but fair challenges. And I know that I'm not the best at articulating why something is good, but Ghost in the Shell, in my opinion, controls the best of any PlayStation 1 game I've played. And I have played quite a lot. Some PlayStation 1 games are very sluggish. This is especially true in things like Resident Evil and a lot of fighting games like Evil Zone. Some PlayStation 1 games have what I would call bogged stories, where they just take forever to get anything done. Fear Effect, which is a very fun game, has that. Ghost in the Shell is very simple. There are cutscenes, there are little introductory skits in between each level, but it's more of a quick, here's where you are, here's what you got to do. But beyond that, it's really fun. It's one of the best video games I've ever played, and I will stick by that basically until the end of my life. I don't think... Well, I do think I may fall out of love with Final Fantasy VIII, or I may eventually find another game to be my top 5 spot rather than Crash Bandicoot. I don't think I will ever find a PlayStation 1 game that I love more than Ghost in the Shell, just because it has blown the rest of the competition out of water. But with that all said and done, those were my top 5 for the PlayStation. Honestly, it's a console full to the brim with really fun games. The library is robust. And honestly, if you have, I think, any experience with the console, your top 5 is going to look radically different from mine. Just because it does have some heavy hitters. Like I said, it has Final Fantasy. It has Resident Evil 2. Resident Evil 2 is an amazing game. It's got some sick fighting games. It's got some really fun, just fun games in general that I think would all make for really challenging additions to the list. Good challengers for the list. But like I said, it was difficult whittling it down. But man, nothing beats Ghost in the Shell. But anyway, thank you guys so much for watching. That was my 5 favorite PlayStation 1 games. I hope you enjoyed. Please leave a like, share, subscribe, leave a comment down below. If you like any of these games, let me know what your top 5 PlayStation 1 games are. I'm sure that your list is probably very different from mine, and I'm curious to know what kind of games you guys enjoy. But that's all I got for now. Check out the Discord, check out the Patreon. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.